Welcome, everyone. You're listening to the Expressed and Orgasmic Living podcast, the show that teaches you how to go from feeling stifled and suffocated in your life to expressed and orgasmic. Here you will receive tips on how to honor yourself, fulfill your desires, and feel truly alive again. I'm your co-host, Renee Faith, Orgasmic Soul Freedom Coach.
And I'm your co-host, Sherrie and Renee, Life Expression Coach. Welcome to this week's episode.
Welcome back to the Expressed and Orgasmic Living podcast. I'm your co-host, Renee Faith. This is your co-host, Sherrie Linnell. We're so happy to be here.
Yes.
Today, Sherrie, we're talking about
boundaries.
And I think I'm pretty good at setting boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd love to share setting boundaries with my mother, setting boundaries with my children's school.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people go through this, like when you first have a child, your mother wants to tell you how to raise your child.
Yes.
How to, and it gets really annoying. And it really triggered me because being an immigrant Asian family, there's hardly any cuddling, nurturing, emotional support.
Yeah.
Like there were no I love yous.
Oh.
I think the first time I heard I'm proud of you was like one time during my college years. One time I heard it said. So there's not a lot of that support that I think Americans are used to.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I had my kids and my mom was pouring all her love into my children that she didn't pour into me and my brother, it was like, well, right? Like, what the hell?
Yeah, I can relate to that.
And so I was really triggered. And then she started telling me what to do with my children, not just during infancy, but even beyond. And I had to tell her, I said, no, like I'm doing things differently.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little bit ashamed to say, but at one point I did kick my mother out of the house because it got so bad where she was telling me like how to feed my child and how to diaper the child. And I was just like, I can't take it anymore. You have to go.
Yeah.
And it was really sad for me that I energetically got there,
Mm-hmm.
but I energetically got there and blew up because I wasn't setting boundaries.
Yes.
Right. And so I had to have a conversation and say, look, I want to do things differently. I don't want to vaccinate my children.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Later on, I had to say, well, I want to homeschool my children. But even before that, during pregnancy, I had to be like, you can't tell me what to do because what I really want to do is have a home birth.
Right. And
so I had to say, you have to respect my choice. It's my body, my baby, my family. And just kind of I didn't go into too much detail, but basically it was just like, I want to do things differently. Let me try this different route with my family and my kids. So you have to respect that. So it was a conversation that was had to set that boundary, to be like, I would like you to chill out, step back.
Yeah.
And she respected that. Yeah. Thankfully,
That's good. Because that could have gone south and bad in like the worst way, where her ego could have taken over and been like, you know what, Renee, fine, you can do this all by yourself, then you don't need me, I'm out. That could be it.
Well, you know what, like my family, and I think this, my family has had other extended family members who have been cut out because of that. Like, for example, my cousin was cut out of the family because she married a Black man, right?
Yeah.
And it was all because of cultural shame and ego and all of that. And so my parents had seen too much suffering in the extended family because the parents were too hard in their stance against their kids and what they wanted to do. And so they take a softer stand with me and my brother, I think.
Mm-hmm. That, you know what, that happened in my life too with my older son. He's diagnosed with ADHD since he was, a kid, 5 years old. And the course of action that I took was to put him on a medicine. Well, that didn't go too well with my mother. Mm-hmm. And she was very upset and said that she was going to take my son from me. you know,
Oh.
and that's how far she was going with that. But the difficult part was to actually still go through it, to go through with it, knowing that that was on the table, that she would
Mhm.
start that process. That's, I mean, I believed she would. That's what she said, you know. So I went ahead and I did what I was going to do. Went, I went with the doctor's advice, and we did it, and nothing happened. I still have my kid, you know. And fast forward to now, uh, there's mental health issues with my middle son, and she was more laxed, I think, you know, to take it in that, you know, he has these issues and he's taking medicine for this and medicine for that. So it wasn't so rigid as it was before. Like I wasn't like feeling that if I did this, is she going to cause problems? You know, get the, at the time it was called DIFUS. I don't know. I think it's CPS now, but
Did you have a conversation with your mom where you said, no, I'm going to do
oh yeah,
this guidance anyway? You said,
yeah, yes, I did have that conversation. I told her it's, you know, it's what I need to do.
right.
I need to do this for him because he's struggling in school. It's going to help him, and that was it. So even though I said that, her reaction was still the same, setting the boundaries. And for us as parents, you know, and I was a new mom then too.
Mhm.
So as parents, setting those boundaries, wanting to try motherhood for ourselves and walk in our own experiences. I mean, for I'm getting kind of emotional. For to kind of go against your mom, who you feel is like experienced, but you want your own experiences. You want to make your own mistakes.
Mhm.
But at the same time, you're like, am I really making these mistakes? Are they going to harm my kid? Is my mother right? You know, you go into these self-doubt modes. So it's, again, you have to trust yourself, and then you could make those boundaries. I think you
Yeah.
trust your instincts.
So for you, it was, am I right in doing this? Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think for others, when you get to that choice point where you have to choose, do I honor my truth and my gut, or do
Mm-hmm.
I honor someone else's truth? When you get to that choice point, you have to, there's going to be these questions. Am I right? Am I bad for doing
Right.
this? Am I wrong for doing this?
Mm-hmm.
And really be clear that it's, you know, you don't know if the other person's right either, right?
Right.
Situation.
Yeah.
And so you have to trust your gut and honor your guidance, your truth, and your motherly wisdom that comes with every mother. Yeah, it's just, you know, it's sometimes it's a leap of faith to honor yourself and your truth.
Yeah.
Like, for
Because
example,
you're walking in unknown territory as a new mom, especially.
as a new mom, I'm also thinking about soul's purpose. Like, if you find your soul's purpose and you step into it, it's a leap of faith. You know, with motherhood, it's always going to be stressful and unknowns. You don't know, you know, with the health stuff, you don't know how it's going to react with the child's body.
Yeah.
And so it is a leap of faith in these two scenarios. And but you just have to, there's no regret if you stand and choose your truth.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's no regret after that point.
Yeah. It's that falls in line with the ideology that I have with my clients, is that you need to know what your values are, you know, and that's the same. I guess it's the same way of saying knowing your truth. Like knowing what you value in your families. Like, really take a look at it as a mother standpoint. What do you value in being a mom to your kid or kids? Like, what kind of mother do you want to be?
Yeah.
And, you know, if you want to be that mom, then be that mom, right? And you are that mom.
Mm-hmm.
And you just stay, you stay in line with that, then it's easy to, no, I'm gonna say it. It's easier to set those boundaries for other people to fall in line because you're not gonna budge for who you are. That's it.
Yeah.
You're in that truth. That's you. And anyone else who wants to offer up an opinion, they can do so. But at the end of the day, it's your decision.
Yeah, and it's honor, and then when you honor yourself, you train others to honor you too, and that's what happened with my mom.
Yep.
With first it was with the home birth, and then it was with, hey, don't tell me how to feed my child because you're not in tune with my baby, right? I am. And then it was the homeschooling bit. And over time, she's learned to trust me because she's seen different results in how my children are in life. And but it's a training them.
Yeah. And you're training yourself too.
Yep.
You're training yourself to stand into your truth and stand and, like you said, muscle mastery, and I lost my train of thought. Does that happen to you? Like you're talking and all of a sudden it's like, what was I saying?
Well, because you trust that one thought will lead to another thought and another thought, but it doesn't.
It doesn't. You're just like,
Let's keep this in. Okay.
Yeah. So, you're training yourself to master that muscle, setting those boundaries going forward, and what you said about your mom telling you how to feed your baby.
Yeah.
When I had my oldest son, my first, I just knew that I was going to breastfeed. But I didn't. Why? Because my mother thought it was gross.
Oh.
So I didn't stand in my truth. I did not stand in my value system where I was going to feed my son through the breast. So that happened. And it kind of trained me to lean on her for the advice and not going with my own gut. So that's a cost right there for, like, when you let that person in, you give them an inch of taking you away from what you set as a boundary. It's going to keep going and keep going and keep going. It could possibly keep going. I shouldn't say it's definite, but it happens that way, where it just keeps going and going and going, and then you lose yourself, and it makes it that much harder to pull back. Yeah,
so you're either training others to honor you, or you're training yourself to give your power away over and over.
That's a better way to put it. You're training yourself to give your power away. Absolutely. So I didn't do that with him. I gave my power away with him, but my other children, I kept my power. I breastfed them for as long as they needed to, in spite of the fact that my mother thought it gross and other people thought it gross, and I came out just fine with formula. Well, no, I nurtured my kid through the breast, and the cost of that is, I feel, that they had stronger immune systems. And I got to witness, in contrast, that my son had earaches all the time. But my kids, my other kids, they didn't have these problems.
And also the connection. Mother-child connection.
We had that bond. Me and my oldest son, we bonded in our own way, but it was a different kind of connection that I had with them. And I still have that connection. Like, my son's independent. My oldest son is independent. My two other kids, they kind of lean on me still. And I'm not ready to let that go, but they're 15 and 12, and I feel like they're still connected to me in that way.
15 and 12. Wow. Yeah. Mine are 11 and 9.
Yeah.
The 9-year-old, a couple of years ago, before quarantine, there was a racist incident that happened to my daughter.
Yeah.
Did I tell you this?
You did, but I think at the time it was so raw and so new. You didn't really go into detail. With a clear mind,
So, well, there were two racist incidents involving my daughter. This was the earlier one. I'm not sure which one I told you, but this is the earlier one before quarantine. This is 2019. She's in kindergarten. 2019, she's in kindergarten, and some stuff goes down in the classroom. She shares it with me in the car. Of course, doesn't understand that it's racist, right? So she's laughing. And I was disturbed. So I emailed the assistant director and I told her, this is what happened. I would like it to be addressed. She never replied to me. So a couple of days go by and I email the, well, first I talked to the only other person of color. She happened to be an Asian teacher. I talked to her. She was in a different classroom, but I was just like, am I wrong? Right? The self-doubt comes in. Am I overreacting? And that always comes up with racist stuff, right? Like, am I overreacting? Is that because that's what people are going to say?
Yeah.
And she was like, no, I think, I think it should be addressed. So I emailed the director and, excuse me, I emailed the teacher first before I emailed the assistant director, and the teacher never replied. And I was livid. I was livid. I was shaking in my chest. That's how angry I was. This is all the anger that I had suppressed from a long time ago before I became super spiritual and stopped talking about racism.
Yeah.
All of that old stuff I suppressed because I was spiritual came all back up in my chest. And I was literally shaking and crying as I'm writing the email because I was so angry that this was not being looked at, because anything racist with Asians gets, they're all microaggressions. Like, we're not getting killed by cops. We're not getting deported, across the border. So it's all microaggressions with us, and it gets shoved under the carpet. Yep. And so I'm in a rage writing this email, and I was just like, I'm not good. If they shove this under the carpet, they will shove everything under the carpet, and I'm not having it. Yep. After a conversation with the director, I was like, I'm done. I pulled my daughter out 6 weeks before kindergarten ended. I pulled her out. I said, I'm going to homeschool her. But for me, that was a boundary. Like, they did not protect my child. They did not show intent to protect my child moving forward. And so I set a hard boundary and said, she's not even going to be in this environment. That's so right. I will do whatever I need to do to protect my children's mental health, right? And so in this instance, the boundary wasn't a conversation after a conversation, because I tried with the emails. I had one conversation with the director. I really did not think anything was going to change. And so I said, hard boundary, I'm out. And I think it's okay for people to cut people out of your life if boundaries are not respected. People have a hard time with that. Like, they're scared to cut people out and burn bridges.
Yeah.
And this wasn't like a life and death thing. It wasn't like anything super physically harmful. But for me, it was important. I don't want microaggressions. It's like 1,000 mosquito stings, right? Yeah. And then one day you just blow up and
yeah,
it's a mental health issue.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. And I am so sorry that she had to go through that. It's same thing happened with my older son. Same grade. He was in kindergarten. The place in the public school, came home, asked me, Mom, what is the N-word? I said, where'd you hear that from? Oh, this so-and-so boy said that to me. Okay. Immediately on the phone. Nobody called me back. So I went there. They said, you need to make an appointment. I said, no, I don't need to make an appointment. I need to see someone right now. Because in my mind, I'm like, this is before, like you, this is before I got spiritually connected and understood about ego and all that. I was just ready to fight, to be honest with you, because I'm a lion to my kids. So they came out and I told them what happened. They were in such denial. It was crazy. So I did what you did, but I moved out of the town. I went out of the town. It was a Polish town, predominantly Polish. And I left that town and I ran back to my hometown where there's my community and there's my community for my son. And even though it was a rough neighborhood, I felt safe there. I felt my kid was going to be safe there.
what a shame that we have, because I had to pull my kid out of a Montessori school, which was, you know, I wanted that Waldorf / Montessori approach. What a shame that we had to, and we're getting into a different topic, but we had to like take our kids out.
They cross boundaries.
Huh?
They cross boundaries. That school crossed.
Right. But like for us, it was like, there's no hope that they will respect our boundaries, that we were forced to take our children out because there was no hope that they would respect. I mean, we're getting into a different topic now, but
I don't think we're getting too much into a different topic, because before we showed example of, you know, the kind of boundaries that you could probably they will accept, and you don't have to burn the bridge. Yeah. But then there's a hard line boundary that just can't be crossed, and you will burn that bridge down. And there are certain degrees to. I mean,
what I'm saying is, like, if yes, agreed, and if, you know, on a society level, if, you know, if white people were more open to respecting boundaries from people of color when it comes to racism, if they were more open to that, then I would have stayed. Our choices would be different in how we set the boundaries. Yes. But because they are so, we get so much pushback that it's not worth it to try to approach setting boundaries in this other way that we normally would. Right. So it's a much harder stance of like, we're taking it out from our child's safety and mental health. So that's what I mean when I said we're kind of, you know, veering. But no, I'm glad we're having this conversation. And boundary setting can take a lot of different forms. But it's basically to protect your energy, your family's energy. And by protecting your energy, you're honoring yourself, you're honoring your child, you know, your family. And that's the whole theme of our podcast, right? Like, don't be afraid to, like, for me, my chest was shaking when I was writing that email. So it can be uncomfortable in the body. Yeah. If you're not used to setting that boundary. So when it comes to racism, like, I wasn't used to setting that boundary. I shoved it into my body for many years, because I was like, well, I'm a spiritual teacher now. Duality is not what I believe in. I don't want to feed this duality, dualistic world with black, white, right, wrong. I don't want to feed it. So let me not talk about racism. I got away from activism. I was a huge activist in my early 20s. So I suppressed it. So I didn't have that mastery muscle of setting boundaries with racism. And that's why it was shaking in my chest, like physically shaking as I was crying. And so sometimes if you're not used to boundary setting, and I know some Asian American moms in my other co-op that are not used to boundary setting, cannot say no to family, friends, cannot say no to strangers, right? And so that it's going to feel super uncomfortable if you're not used to it yet. Yeah. But you've got to start somewhere. Yeah.
Same goes for the African American community. You know, you don't. It's hard to say no to your elders, and we're taught that you respect your elders. You know, we have aunties that aren't our aunties. They're just friends of the family, but they're our aunties, and they have certain types of say in our lives that we need to just always respect, regardless. You know, it's setting boundaries for us isn't easy. It's not even heard of. It's like a community thing within your family. Everyone has to get involved. It's everybody's business. You know, like, you actually get to learn who it is in the family you could talk to that will spread that around for you. You know, I'm rambling again, because but boundaries is so important to me, because I know the cost of not having them set and backing them up, you know, because it could get crazy in these streets of family and community.
My mom is very strong personality wise. And I can see her bump heads with my son who's 11. So my mom is just a little quirky, right? So she's always like, take your socks off to my son. you're making me hot. You must be hot. Take your socks off. And my son doesn't want to take his socks off. And I've taught him, look, it's your body. It's your choice. If you don't want to take your socks off, you don't have to. Just politely tell her, you know, I'm more comfortable in my socks, right? So it's training him to set that boundary with her, because she will just bulldoze. You know, she did with me, and she tries to do with my kids. So it's training them also to set boundaries with their grandmother, their friends, right? If you're not comfortable, speak up. Say so. Say no, thank you. No, I'd like my space. Quarantine was great for that, right? No, I would like my 6 feet of space.
Yeah.
And just practice saying what you need.
Yeah. So exactly that. I was just thinking about something that you were saying to your 11-year-old about setting boundaries. And I feel like I could tell that one of your values is politeness, you know, because every response that you give in your boundary setting is the most polite and well-mannered, so nice. And like me, on the other hand, I will cut you with my words to set my boundaries, and I don't care how you receive it or the impact, because that's just not I mean, I am naturally polite sometimes, but when it comes to protecting and setting my boundaries, I don't really consider the politeness part of it, because politeness isn't on top in my value system. It's more being expressed in any way that looks to me and makes me feel comfortable in.
Yeah.
You know, so
I think different situations call for different things, right?
Yeah.
Different situations call for different energies. It depends.
Mm-hmm.
But when I had that blow up with my mom, like when I kicked her out, that was because I just didn't have enough practice boundary setting with her, and I let it get that far. And so I believe that with practice, we can come to a point where we're like, you know, that's not going to work for me.
Mm-hmm.
No emotion attached.
Right.
My fact, my truth. And so it can be communicated in a different energy, in a calmer energy. And I think that comes with practice.
Yeah. Well, even in contrast, being emotional is sometimes just your way of being.
Yeah.
So that's not wrong either.
Right.
To have your emotional reaction, because I am an emotional, very emotional in my reactions, and I was always told that that's just bad. You know, that's just bad. People aren't going to like you, but the right people will, and the right people do.
Right.
You know, my emotional outburst is what drew me to my husband drawn to me. You know, my crazy way of being, my emotional self led me to him. You know, my kids are emotional. I mean, I feel bad for my husband and my older son, because I'm a Cancer and so are my 2 little ones. We are emotional people. And we set our boundaries. We are emotional at protecting those things.
So it's so interesting, right? Because yes, I am emotional, but I'm sometimes uncomfortable with my children being too emotional. And I will tone police them a little bit. It's like, okay, you can tell your grandmother you want to keep your socks on, but say it in a different tone that's more respectful. You can say, so I say stuff like, your feelings are valid, but choose the tone in which you communicate it through. And I know tone policing is not healthy. And so now it's like, I have to set a boundary with myself to not do that, to protect them. Yeah. So that they know that it's okay to have these emotions. Right. It's okay to be emotional. Honor what's coming up for you in your chest and release it. Yeah. So you're not holding it and stuffing it down. Yeah. So now, so thank you for sharing that, because now it's just, I'm able to articulate this practice of gentle parenting. Yeah. It through the lens of, hey, it's a boundary I need to set with me. I know one mom who just had such a hard time saying no. So, and people can read your energy when you don't know how to say no.
Yeah.
So they'll come and creep up on you to be like, hey, can you watch my child also on Friday night? Right? Can you come and like homeschool my kid 3 days a week? Because I got to go do my full-time job. Like, this is what my one mom that I knew was getting bombarded with. Like, everybody was pulling on her for help, and she couldn't say no. And she was drained and overwhelmed and spiraling out of control because she didn't have the space she needed. She didn't have the downtime she needed. And everybody just wanted a piece of her, right? They just wanted her. And so she kept giving and giving and giving, and she felt so empty and drained. And so, you know, it's the ability to say no. I choose me is so powerful. Just that one word, no, will save your energy, will save that mental drain, right? Yeah. You got to fill your cup up. So you have to look at, where are my energy leaks? Where can I be saying no, where I really want to say no, and plug up those leaks? Yeah. Right. Because you got to show, you got to be full. Your cup has to be full in order for you to show up for your children.
And there's, you know, you've heard of spoon theory, right?
No, what is that?
Okay. It's like, it's almost like the empty cup, you know, you can't pour from an empty cup. Well, the spoon theory is you only have but so many spoons in a day. Okay. You know, and you could choose how many spoons you're going to hold that day. So I have a spoon where, am I going to clean my kitchen? Okay. I have 5 spoons. That's just an example. I have 5 spoons. And of these 5 spoons, I have my kitchen, my this podcast with you, taking my kid to getting my kids to football practice, getting dinner ready, and spending time with all my family. Those are my 5 spoons. And once they're done, they're done. My cup is therefore empty. So my cup starts off with these spoons, but once that's done, I'm done. And my boundary is set around there too. I'm not doing anything once my spoons are done. So that makes any sense. That's spoon theory for you. Yeah. I say look it up because it's a little more detailed than that. I just reinterpret it and reimagine it for my own self. But if you look it up, spoon theory, you'd be like, oh wow, I'm going to use that. It's good for your mental health for sure.
Okay, cool. So, you know, for the listeners, the viewers out there, if you know, have been inspired to set a new boundary in your life with a loved one, drop it in the comments. Let us know. You know, we want to support you. We're here to inspire you and offer you all these tips. And we want to know how it's landing with you. Is it helpful? Has it been of value? So definitely comment, connect with us. We're here to serve you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys. See you next time. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed this new episode. And if you did, please leave us a like and subscribe. Also, feel free to let us know what topics you'd like to see covered in future episodes. Get in touch in the comments and visit us on our website, reneefaith.com and sherrielandrenee.com to learn more about how we can serve you on your journey. All links below in the description. See you next week's episode. Bye now.